So the project that we have been doing through the Rotary and by myself independently and through my network of friends is basically installing reverse osmosis based water purification plants in villages in India. And so we have partnered with a local organization called CPW, Community Pure Water. They are both a vendor and also a cooperating organization to install these RO plants in the birth state that I come from in India and around the capital city of that state called Hyderabad. So I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, and that's where I go every year, and it helps me monitor the plants that we have installed. And what I like about the CPW, this company's model is called IOM model. So I stands for installation, operations, and maintenance. So they are involved from the get-go in selecting the villages. They install the reverse osmosis plants, they operate it and also maintain it for the next 10 years. So that's what I like about, one-stop shop, so to speak. Each RO plant provides access to clean water to about 2,500 people in each village, about 500 families. That's also very huge in terms of the impact. And it's common knowledge. We all know, what drinking safe water does to people. That basically prevents waterborne diseases like cholera, dysentery, and typhoid, and all these other diseases. And also, in some places in that state, they have high fluoride content in the groundwater, so that brings discoloration of teeth and all that stuff. There are huge advantages to drinking safe water. So, as John and we all know that our Rotary, for the first time, we are applying for a global grant. And one of the prerequisites for that is we need to partner with a host Rotary in that country. So we went through a couple of iterations, and then recently, a few months ago, the DG or the district governor of that district referred one Rotary that we are partnering with in writing the application and also executing this global grant. So far in our club, we raised about $20,000. That's going to be our cash contribution for this global grant. And the district DDF, they're called DDF, the contribution from the district will be the matching dollar to dollar, comes to about another $20,000. And the remaining from the Rotary International comes to a total of about $70,000 that in turn turns out to install about 36 RO plants in that region. Next. So here are some technical words. The water quality in the world are defined by TDS, total dissolved solids. So higher the number, higher impurities it has, and so you want the number to be anywhere between 30 to 80. The TDS level in the groundwater typically in that region is about 200. So with this reverse osmosis technology, we'll bring it down to anywhere between 30 and 80. And some daily consumption of about 3 liters of water per person or 10 liters per family. So this RO technology is based on what is called as a 5-stage reverse osmosis technology. So you have 5 filters. The first one it goes through is the sand filter, and I'll show you pictures of this by the way at the end. The second one is an activated carbon filter. Third is a micron filter. And the fourth is the reverse osmosis, which is the main engine, so to speak, in taking away these impurities. So that's the reverse osmosis membrane. And the last one is the UV filter, ultraviolet filter. In addition, there is this pre-filtration storage tank of about 2,000 liters, which is made of plastic, food-grade plastic. Then you have another 1,000 liters of post-filtration stainless steel storage tank. Now, why stainless steel? Because sometimes when the water stagnates in that storage container for longer period, like if that village is not consuming as much water as they should be, then the water gets stored in that tank for a longer period that may develop some bad taste and odor. So with the stainless steel, it prevents that. And the last component is what is called as the ATW, anytime water. This CPW implemented this recently. So it's basically it's a debit card, smart card technology, and the villagers would be given a card once they deposit enough money for that whole month, and there will be a card reader outside the reverse osmosis plant room, and right next to that would be a tap. So when they come and swipe that card, immediately you get exactly 20 liters of purified water, and they put a can underneath the faucet, the tap, and that's how they fill it up. And so what that means is, you don't need an operator to be there to get the water. They can do it day and night, anytime in the night, daytime, anytime they want. Next. So there are two types of RO plants that we have been installing. 90% of them are this 500 LPH RO plants, 500 liters per hour. Based on the size of the population of the village, and the cost to us is $1,900 to install that 500 LPH plant. Now, in some villages where the population is higher, 800 families or higher, that's where we put in this 1,000 LPH plant, and that cost to us is $2,200. Now, as you can see, it's marginally higher. Now, the reason is most of the components of this 5-stage RO system is kept in place, except for they go for a bigger reverse osmosis membrane and a bigger pump to pump that water through that membrane. So that marginal increase is about $300.
Mohan, did those costs include the pipes and the faucets?
Everything is included in there. Next.
I'm sorry, what's the capacity of the larger one? Is it
1,000.
Okay.
So even though it's double, but the price is not doubled to $3,800. It's just increased by $300. So going back to this CPW's model, which I really like, is the IOM model, install, operate, and maintenance. So they are involved in the selection of a village, I'll come to the selection criteria in a bit. They're involved in the operations of that plant. They hire a local operator from that village, train that person, pay the salary every month, and that operator is responsible for operation of the plant. Then the maintenance. So maintenance includes a replacement of the filters regularly. Any hardware failures, they replace it or repair, and it's all included in it. Now, how would they take care of all these expenses? So the last one, the bullet point, is the trick. Basically, this company sells water, this reverse osmosis pure water, at a very inexpensive price, which is easily affordable by these villagers. With that money, they pay for all the operational expenses and also the maintenance expense. So it's a very self-sustaining model that I really like, and that's why I've been doing this for a couple of years. And I'm glad to partner with Rotary on this. I will continue to put more plants. Next. So as I said, they sell water at a very cheap price, even based on the income levels of those villagers. Each liter of this reverse osmosis water is sold at 1/3 of 1 US cent per liter. Okay, that's even in Indian standards. As I said, it is very cheap. When compared to the other commercial bottled water that you get in India, it's 80 times more expensive. So even with that small margins, that the CPW is able to take care of the operational expenses and the maintenance expenses. Next. So coming back to the selection criteria, so this CPW, the villages are selected in different ways. One is, let's say if I'm a sponsor or my friends are sponsors, they have a specific village they want to put a plant in, and for instance, I sponsored my own ancestor village, and so in that way the villages are already selected. But if there is a sponsor who says, I don't have a village in mind, you pick one, then the CPW, they do a survey and make sure that that village meets the right prerequisites before they install. So there is a process to this. One of the criteria for installing a village is the village must have at least 500 families, or about 2,500 people. Because if they have less people, let's say 50 families or 100 families, then the amount of water they sell will not be enough to pay for the operational and maintenance expenses. So that's the threshold, 500. They also expect the village council of that village to be stakeholders by building a plant room, a concrete plant room, to house this reverse osmosis hardware. So that's the village council's commitment, and they have to pay for it. Then they also have to, the village council also has to take care of the raw water source. So usually they dig bore wells in villages, so that's how the village council is also responsible for the investment in digging a bore well and supplying the raw water source. And they also the village council needs to order a power connection, electricity connection to that plant room. CPW, they pay for all the electricity charges, the monthly bills and whatnot. The other thing also which is very important is that village council must also agree to buy the water at that price that I mentioned earlier. Because if they don't, then the whole thing will fall apart. Next. So that's the point that I just mentioned. And also the village council, without any guarantee, they should target to have at least 2,000 people, 2,000 liters of reverse osmosis water to be sold every day. Okay, that comes to approximately 100 cans. Each can is about 20 liters. So that's the break-even point for the CPW to run that RO plant and also maintain it. Next. Now, as I said, CPW is just not a vendor; they're also a cooperating organization. So, in addition to installing, operating, and maintaining, they're also responsible for training those villages on different aspects of the RO plant. Obviously, the main thing is to educate the villagers on drinking safe, the merits of drinking safe water. Because a lot of people in villages in India, they're not literate. So you need to convince them, saying that this is good for you, and by doing that, your children will miss less of your school because they fall sick less often. Or if you're a wage earner, then you also miss work less often, and things like that. And if you have older people in your home, then they have longer life expectancy if you drink all that stuff. So they educate the people to not only drink but also cook with that safe water. So in terms of the training, they train the operator on how to do the operations and all the stuff, and how often should they replace the filters, and also they train the operator saying how the CPW has what is called as they have a call center. So anytime there is any problem, the operator can just lift the phone, call them on this toll-free number, and the CPW will dispatch within the next 48 to 72 hours to that plant to rectify the problem. So they need to train them how to make the calls, and they also, operator needs to test the water, the TDS level periodically, and to make sure that it's within those bounds. And if it is exceeding, then you take a remedial action like replacing the filters or what's wrong, things like that. They also need to, they also train the village council again on the merits of drinking water and all that stuff, and also reinforce on the village council of sticking to the IOM agreement. That means, they should buy the water at the price, they should have minimum number of cans being sold, things like that. So that's how the training they do. For the normal villagers, they obviously train them in the merits, and I'll show you one photo that I myself was involved in such training, because I can speak the local language, and it's fascinating to do the training. Next. So in terms of this vendor/cooperating organization, how did we end up with this organization called CPW? So in 2014 and 15, and by the way, our club members know that I go to India every year for about a month to 2 months in December, mainly to spend time with my dad, and also to partake in these social projects. So I visit villages, I participate in the inauguration of these plants, participate in the training of these plants. So in 2014 and 15, when I had this idea about this reverse osmosis technology and the need for it in India, I compared 3 different companies, and I don't want to. So basically, one is a Cadillac version, the other one is, let's say, a Yugo version, and so the one I picked, CPW, is I would call it as a Honda, a reliable, stable, not very expensive, not too cheap, and also I met the founder of this organization, who actually is a serial entrepreneur who lives in New Jersey, and he's also from India, from that region, and he made lots of money during the internet boom era, and since then he has been doing mostly philanthropic work and stuff like that. So for me, the intent of this founder is also important. And so I visited him in New Jersey. I visited the plants, the warehouses, the facilities, and the villages where they've installed. I tested, unbeknownst to them, I tested the water after the filtration from these three different organizations. So I did the due diligence, and then I selected CPW, and I've been very happy with everything about that organization, and they are the ones who are partnering with us as a vendor in this global grant. Okay, and as I said, the other side of the same coin, the IOM model is also basically it's a self-sustaining model, so that we don't have to infuse any more money after we put in the initial $1,900 for each plant, because it runs by itself for the next 10 years or even beyond. Next. Other thing I looked at is the past performance of this organization, CPW. They've done about 200 plants so far, and they're still growing and still adding more RO plants. And they use high quality hardware for this reverse osmosis, especially the reverse osmosis membrane. They import it from outside India, and they have quality hardware components. They also, as I said, have a call center so that the operators in these villages can call a toll-free number and then report a problem and then get the problem fixed. So they have a 48 to 72 hours SLA with the village council. Next. Other thing I liked also is, as I said, the capital city is called Hyderabad, and that's where the main office is, and that's their warehouse. But they also have satellite warehouses spread throughout, and they store all the spare parts, filters, and whatnot, so that they want to meet their 48 to 72 hours SLA, so they can easily dispatch those filters from the satellite warehouses. That's another additional investment they made, and I like that. And as I mentioned, they have this ATW feature so that you can dispense water. The villagers can get water day and night without help from the local operator. And I also like that smart card technology. I am also impressed with the technology in villages like that. And lastly, they are ISO 9001 certified. So in terms of some of the highlights of this reverse osmosis project, that's why Rotary, myself and my friends, we have been doing this since June 2015. We installed our first plant in June 2015, and we are up to we have installed 20 to 25 so far, and we have enough cash for another 20 or so, 15 to 20 more plants, and hopefully with the global grant we can scale it up and do more. So one thing that really I like this project is that with the $1,900 it's so impactful. So with one RO plant, it provides safe water to 2,500 people, and with our global grant, for 36 plants, 36 villages, you're talking about 70,000 villagers accessing pure water every day. That's huge in my view. And I've said enough times about the self-sustaining model. We don't have to put any more money after we put in the initial amount of $1,900 for each plant. Next. So monitoring is also important, because here we are thousands of miles away, and it's relatively easier to give money than making sure that the money is well spent, the projects are going on fine. So coincidentally and fortunately, I happen to go to India every year for about a month and a half, 2 months. So I take time off to visit these villages. And most of the time I don't tell them I'm coming, so I just show up and kind of surprise them and talk to villagers and go to the plant and see the pulse of the RO plant, and also I partake in inaugurations. So when they put in a new plant, I go there, and it's almost like a festive environment in this inaugurations. I'll show you some pictures of that, and also partake in the training. So because I can speak the local language, not very good, but I try also to partake in the training, try to impress upon these villagers on drinking this safe water. And it's measurable. So the ATW, the Anytime Water, it has a feature it can count the number of cans they have sold per day, per month. So you can measure, how many. Indirectly, you can measure how many people are actually drinking the safe water and what's the percentage of people drinking. So you can do some assessment of the effectiveness of that plant. Past performance, as I said, we have already installed about 20-25 plants so far, and then we have more to add. And ATW is another nice feature that they have. Next.
Mohan, I'm cracking up here because I'm listening to you and I'm seeing 50 feet of water sprinkling out on a golf course.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
I know. That's why, and I'm sure that's what I do as part of the Rotary, and that's one reason I joined the Rotary 6 years ago, whenever is, we are so international. And whenever we go to South America or Asia or Africa, we see a different side of the world. Here we go home and open the tap water, out comes clean water, and switch switch on the light and things like that. We take it for granted, but when we go to these developing countries, it's a totally different story.
Oh, and exactly what is the local Rotary Club doing? I see a lot of work by you. It's
Yeah.
all great. But what's the local Rotary Club doing?
Well, so far we have not partnered with any Rotary for all the plans that we have done. We are doing it by ourselves. Basically, our Rotary funds. Then I've been liaisoning with the organization CPW in selection of villages, operate all that stuff. But for the global grant, for the first time, we are partnering with a local company, in Hyderabad. And so I put in one of the concerns up there. So as part of this global grant, for the first time, we're going to work with this local Rotary. And we still need to see how well it's going to work out with us. So that's one concern that I flagged in there. So the next concern I flagged is the installation capacity. So I'm told that CPW can install anywhere between 10 to 15 plants per month. So if you're talking about 36 plants, we should be easily able to do it. But again, we have not done a little bit higher scale till now, but I'm confident that we should be able to do it. Continued education, that's the key. We're already doing some training, but I'm working on some other supplemental education to train these villagers, like having a puppet show or recording creating a video on educating these villagers, and then going from village to village and conducting that kind of a training. So education is going to be the key. The last one is the state government, especially during the election time, they say they promise all kinds of stuff. And they have been promising, saying that they're going to provide safe water by taps to each and every household in a village. And I know it's a pun intended, it's a pipe dream. So, when that happens, let's see. But until that time, our plan is to continue to do this. Last one. Okay, so the future of not just the global grant, but a future of where we are heading. One is that that's why we invited some representatives from other clubs, so that we can partner with them for not this global grant, for the future ones, so that if they are interested in giving cash contribution, and we can do that and scale it up. Next one is, as I mentioned, I would like to standardize the training and make it more effective and easily implementable in villages. So that's going to be the 2018 project for me to work on that training. And I'll continue to fund or donate money from my side, from my company, to install more plants. Continue to get funding from my friends. And there are some organizations called API, it stands for American Association of Physicians of Indian origin. So they also are interested in partnering with us because they also have ancestral villages. So they want to sponsor a village in their ancestral land. So I'm looking at different avenues to how to raise more money and scale it up. That's basically what I have, and very quickly I'll show you some pictures.
What happens at the end of 10 years?
They can, the village council can extend the maintenance for the next another 10 years, or they can say this is where we'll stop, and every time there's a problem, they call CPW for spare parts, filters, but they have to do it by themselves. Yeah.
One of the biggest barriers toward getting the villagers to participate is it, so you said it's affordable, so cost shouldn't be an issue. Is it lack of understanding of the benefits, or is it that sort of cost benefit value proposition?
Yeah, so one is, even though they, as I said, it's very affordable, but they still, say that can you make it cheaper than one, instead of 1/3 of one set, they want to make it even less than that. So there's an ongoing battle. The second thing could be that they may not even have enough funds to construct a plant room, because that costs money. But we push them to, we want them to be stakeholders and not just everything free. So that's another. The other thing is, which is kind of funny, is, let's say the village has all the right things for us to put a plant. Then politics come in. So the head of that village council belongs to one political party. Then there could be another rich person, rich family in that village belong to another party, and there will be rifts, and ultimately, nothing happens. So those are some of the experiences that I've had.
What percentage of villagers typically participate?
About 50% is the threshold. Okay, and after anything beyond that will be. So the other thing that I forgot to mention about the CPW is that, let's say a village doesn't sell enough water, then that means they're running a loss. So they don't abandon that village. So they still commit to running that and maintaining their plant for the next 10 years. So what they do is basically a business model. Some villages could be selling a lot higher than the threshold value, and some could be underselling it. So it's a washout. But the main thing, what I like about CPW is their commitment. They will not abandon a village. And especially, as I said, the founder of that organization is very sincere in his intent. I'll take more questions while they're.
So do they not find, I mean, when do villagers say they're going to use, I mean, everyone who has a card,
Yeah.
right? If you're going to use it, you get a card.
Yes.
So when you go to a village and ask them whether they want to participate, you say, like to put an installation here. What the village goes out, the village council goes and promotes it and
Yeah.
gets people to
Agree to it.
to agree to. So they sign.
That's.
They sign some kind of agreement.
Yeah, yeah. So in a local language, it's called the document itself is called resolution. So basically, the village council passes a resolution saying that now we're going to have a RO plant, and then invites this CPW and Rotary for us to come and install it. Let me take Paige's question. Paige.
Well, early in the presentation, Mohan, you said that the average water quality in the villages is 200
TDS.
TDS.
Yeah.
And they need to have a range of 30 to 80.
Yeah.
In a rural community in Ohio, what would the average TDS water quality be before purification system? What's a reference point for what our water quality is?
To be honest with you, I don't know, but I'm guessing anywhere between 50 to 100 is what my guess is. So here's the typical reverse osmosis plant. Looks from outside. It's a 15 by 15 feet concrete plant room. Next. And here's basically the 5-stage reverse osmosis hardware. One on the left black thing is the storage tank. The one in the middle is that 5-stage process. So you have this sand filter, Then those two blue ones hanging down, they are the micron filters. Then you see another horizontal blue thing going right, that's the reverse osmosis membrane. And then you're not, the UV filter is not visible there, but maybe in the next slide you can see. And this is the storage container or storage tank after the filtration system. Next. So in each village that after we installed it, we put a big plaque up there. It's almost like a 3 feet by 2 feet big plaque. And we mentioned the names of the sponsors. And by the way, I think I mentioned in our, so whether a plant is sponsored by a Rotary or not, for all the plants that I have sponsored, my friends have sponsored, I made it standard that we put in our Dublin Rotary logo in there in all the plants. And then, so the bottom, the top half is in English, the bottom half is in the local language. Next. So the village invites the local politician, government official. The person could be a congressman or could be a senator, and they come in and inaugurate the plant and give some speech, and so that's what that person in white clothes is doing. Next. So I happened to be there, and I invited another government official, and to do the ribbon cutting. So he was pushing me to cut the ribbon myself. So anyway, the one on the right side is the priest, the local priest, and he comes and does some rituals, Hindu rituals, and to inaugurate the plant. Next. Again, it's part of the whole religious ceremony, and they break a coconut as part of the ritual. And the water that comes out from the broken coconut, they sprinkle it, just to give good omen to that plant, and that's what they're doing. Next. So here are some of the people, congregating around the plant room for the inauguration. Next. And as I said, the politician will give a speech, and there I am sitting next to him, and you can see the poster behind it, and you can see my picture. So they blew up a big picture and posted there, and I said, "Where'd you get my picture?" They said, "Well, we went to your company's website." And so next. Oh, that's the one. It's all in the local language. Next. People sitting around and listening to what we are saying. Next. So the one with the microphone is the chief guest, is the main guest, and so they were felicitating me by putting a shawl around my shoulders. That's the way to do it. Next. And there's that ATW card reader. So as part of the inauguration, this chief guest wanted me to get the first can as part of the inauguration. So I was swiping a card, and then out came that 20 liters of water. Next. So see the can he's carrying, that's the 20-liter can. Next. So, as I said, the whole thing is like a fete, it's like a festival. So they decorate the village with those dry colored powder, and they provide free snacks and stuff like that. So it's a very festive environment. I think that's the last slide, right? Okay. So that's all I have, folks. And Paige?
One last question, Mohan. Did your father have the opportunity to see any of this? Did he get a chance to participate in any of the villages that you've
No, because we have been doing this for the last 2 years, and he's 90 years old, and his health has been declining for the last 5-10 years, so he's not moving around much. But he knows what I'm doing and is very proud of me. Thank you. Thank you.